bronche. That's how we say brunch.
Here's to the ladies who say basic with their lunch. Be a queen.
Be a boss.
Ladies who brunch and pop it off.
Hey, we pop and pop it off. We pop.
All right. The episode's about to start.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ladies Who Bronche. I am Julissa.
What's good, everybody? This is Skittles.
And this week, we have someone who honestly, was one of my favorite people when I was working at WeWork, so straight up. Super big heart is what I think I want to say about him. Super big heart, really dedicated, and just honestly, one of the motherfuckers I would call if I needed help to get away from robbing a bank, because I really think he would hold me down fully. John, who the fuck are you?
Well, hi everyone. I'm John. Last name Mark. It's not French. I'm not Jean-Marc. I will say that while I do love that intro, I'm probably the motherfucker who's also robbing the bank with you, not talking you out of it because I'm trying to get the promo. I'm currently still a WeWork employee, which is enough in and of itself. But more so than that, you know, I'm a biracial kid from Georgia. I'm a former military vet. You know, I'm so many of these labels that these companies are trying to get right in 2020. I'm like all of the motherfuckers. And most importantly, I'm a dude who just loves to brunch.
Yes. And honestly, that is what we are all about here. We're all about these brunch moments. And John, I'll say, John, you know, is being really humble. And yes, all these titles are true, but I think the thing I love most about you, John, is nothing that has to do with your titles and how smart you are or the fancy things you did in the military. It's just your freaking heart. And so John was always one of those people who welcomes everyone. And when John first started the company, I was running the location up in Harlem, and he busted through, and he was like, yeah, I want to talk to you about an organization or a group that we had within, we were called We of Color, which is an employee resource group, obviously for people of color. And at that time, the group was going through a rough patch. I think rough patch is putting it nicely, but it was going through a rough patch. And John was just new and excited to know that this sort of thing was around, and then decided to roll up and have a conversation with me to try to understand why the enthusiasm around this group was so funky, because he was just ready to get to work and make shit happen. And then I remember, John, when you first came in, at first I thought, this motherfucker's gonna get disappointed. He just has no idea what shit he's getting into. He got too much hope for this space. I was very much hopeless about what he was trying to do, but because he was a brother and he was trying, I was like, well, I'm gonna try with him, but really the shit it fall flat on its face. And I was wrong. And John, along with several other folks, really re-energized that group and and I hope, I'm not with WeWork anymore, but I hope that the group still holds a presence in the space. And it's not just a presence in New York, it's actually an international presence that the group has. And I really do think that, John, whether you want to give yourself the credit or not, you're one of the reasons why this group really was able to resurge, because we always had Rocky on the ground, but Rocky also needed some support in order to keep that engine going. And so I look to you as that person whose heart goes before the bullshit that would make you take a step back, rightfully so, because you can, because it wasn't your responsibility, but you still stepped up, you took responsibility because it mattered to you. And so that's the impression I have of John as a human, is that he's just fucking determined.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, always, now that I've given you some flowers, how are things going at WeWork, but more specifically around you and your career? How have you been feeling these days? We're in a fucking pandemic. Update us.
Sure. Yeah, I would love to address that. I think I'll start first with the thank you flowers that are pouring in. I'll address that first. And I think that first and foremost, and I should have said this in my intro, because I think this is fun for a lot of people, is that I'm also an Aquarius, right? So Aquarius, number one, get bad raps for being pretty emotionally distant and fuck the bullshit, let's talk the logic kind of people, but also get a lot of credit and get a lot of positives in the sense that they're very humanitarian people and very I'm not going to judge you because I don't know you like that. And I respect your independence kind of people, right? So I come into WeWork, right? And, I started WeWork the reason that I came to WeWork is the same reason that I came to New York, right? I was working in DC. I was working, I'm IT by trade. So I had done a lot of IT work with a lot of alphabet organizations, the Department of Justice, the FBI, all of these like 3-letter organizations. And in those organizations, it's very much just like ideas, new ideas, like thinking outside the box is just not the wave because we've got the 5-year plan already implemented. So, when I heard about WeWork and I heard about things that you could literally implement in a day, if you just had the idea, you would have the support, which is like, all right, bet, like cash me in. So, that brought me to New York. And on day one, you speak of Rocky, I met Rocky on day one, and Rocky is very much a people person. Like he's very much that type of person who's just like, when you meet him, you feel that energy. You feel like this hits differently. Like you are a different kind of person, right? And I vibed with that. Like I took that in for myself and said that, like, while I do believe that everybody is individual, you have been sent as a representative of this company, and this is how I see you. Are my first impression. So therefore, like, it's easier for me to look at everybody else and also have that same impression. So Jaleesa, how you say, like, you see me coming in as just like another brother who's like, waiting for the cynicism to happen, like a little starry-eyed. I saw that as just like, this is just a continuation of the people that I've been seeing. So I need to understand, like, you need to explain to me why we don't all feel this way. And I'm open to hearing that, but like, I don't see that yet. So help me either avoid some traps or tell me the traps that are in place, and let's talk about how we can like get over that, right? Yeah. So, what you have told me has been very among what I heard from everybody else was just like, yo, we've got the energy, we've got what we're missing is momentum. What we're missing is the people to come in and like truly carry the idea to the next level. And it was like, I'm not yet bogged down with work. Like people have not really hit me with my true duty assignments yet. So until that happens, this is what I'm about, right? And I'm also going to tie that into what we're doing right now, because right now I'm drinking a delicious Henny apple, which I lovely call the hood sweet tea. Yeah. The whole tie-in, one of the biggest tie-ins to me even getting involved in that employee resource group was I just saw our office communicator, which is Slack. I saw this, I just saw messages floating around that was like, yo, come, we're going to come have this like big, like quarterly gathering. There's going to be Henny. I was like, regardless of the people that are involved, if there's Henny, there's me. So,
I'm an avid Henny lover, which was one of my favorite things to learn about him after I met him. I was like, he likes what? I'm
really with it. I've hit up your people for the Henny white plugs.
Yes. Carmelia. Yeah, like legit. John is all about the Henny. Sorry, but continue. They would serve with the shits.
Yeah. So it was something. It for me, it was something familiar, right? Something familiar that I knew and that I loved, and then I had attached a positive, all positive memories to this thing, right? Like some people have terrible Henny stories. I do not. I either have positive Henny stories or just stories I don't remember, right? Like there's no in between. So, going in with that mindset, right? Like I really think that just with most things in life, it's about your set and your setting. It's about how you feel, and it's about what you walk into. So my set was good because I felt right with myself. The setting was good because I felt like all of the things that were surrounding me were designed to support me. Right. So then it was just like, with these two things in place, like, how can we lose? And that to me was my driving force in going out to anybody who was skeptical and saying like, okay, if you're feeling some type of way about this, if you're feeling skeptical, what is it? Is it your set? Is it your setting? And like, how can we address that?
Yes. I loved it. And honestly, like I said, it really propelled us forward into creating a new crew of people that were just like, it was almost like we were there for each other, because after a while it became, well, people like John and Rocky are still trying, cool. And oh, they put me on to like I met Kai, I met Dana, like, all these other people through my involvement with John. But because we started to care about each other and what the cause of the group was, it really was able to organically become this really strong unit, which then allowed for the New York City crew to be of support to a larger unit of people throughout the world, which was great. So, I just always like to give you a little shout out, because I know even though you weren't the founding member of We of Color from inception, you are a big reason why the energy came back. And I think that that's important to highlight, because I think for all people of color who are working at whatever companies, there's this term called intrapreneur, which is the idea that you can be an entrepreneur within these spaces that you're working for, even though it's not your own thing. And I think it's important to elevate stories like that, because I feel like people should know that being an intrapreneur is actually a super valuable thing, and it's a powerful thing. I consider myself a little bit of an intrapreneur when I was there as well. And I think that all of the cool things that I have going on now are due to the fact that I was willing to be in the weeds and go above and beyond at the time in that space. And that going above and beyond didn't mean conforming to white structures and getting white people to like me and what I liked. It was actually me being my authentic self and using that as the driving force to challenge them on things that they were claiming as a company, and being like, well, if we're all these things, then this also means that. And like, if you don't agree, then we need to have a discussion around how we're defining things, right? And so I love the idea that intrapreneurs are just as out here and important as entrepreneurs. So for those of us who work for other people and don't have our own job, do not belittle the power of your voice or the power of hosting an event or being in a space that feels authentic. Because like John said, the Henny is what got him. The Henny is what got him. So that's just the power of the Henny. So I want to highlight that. And John, just like really quickly also, I know throughout this pandemic, you'd shared that there were some exciting developments around your life and history that you were discovering. And I'm curious, how has that unfolded and how are you doing in that area?
I mean, how much time we got? I'll give you the elevator. I'll give you the quick elevator, right? So something that you also must know about me is that I'm adopted, right? My adoption was private. I have no information on my biological family. I took a 23andMe about 5 years ago. The short of it is that I got some information through that 23andMe that has helped me locate my birth mother, both my birth sisters, like true, like family, like biological, like I'm related to you. I kind of look like you family. And there's so much to unpack with that. That's just 2020 vibes. That's like a Thursday in 2020, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, if there were any year for this to happen, this is the one.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny because when you did share that with our group, I remember being like, oh my God, like these 23andMe tests do have a purpose. Because sometimes you hear people with conspiracy theories talking about, oh, they're trying to steal our DNA to do other things. I be gullible sometimes. I be like, damn, for real, that makes mad sense. Because if I wanted to connect DNA samples, I'd start a company too. And so like, I have so many like misconstrued ideas about it. So to hear that it actually helped you for the first time was the moment that I was like, wait a minute, actually these things are really important. They're really important. And so I wanted to just say that for all my other 23andMe conspiracists out there, that who are really truly benefiting from this.
I want to say too that it's very much a double-edged sword, right? Like, I feel like there are people who are very heavily family oriented and are very heavily like, let's keep it all within the roof. Like, let's keep it all within ourselves. Like, we got to stick tight, right? Like tribalism, which is a huge, I think it's like a big buzzword of 2020, right? Like tribalism, like keep it tight, keep it right, keep it tight. So for me, I don't necessarily like rock with that theme so heavily because of how I grew up, right? So I was open to receiving that kind of news. but I also want to caution on the other side of people who feel like, they have this identity. It's very firm and rock solid, and understanding that by going through this process, you might unravel something about yourself or about somebody within your circle, within your tribe, that may shake you to your core,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did a 23andMe like a couple of months ago. So I was like trying to figure out where like my family's like bloodlines went through. But I have a friend who had a sibling who did 23andMe, and her sibling found out like this like huge family secret that was like not supposed to be unveiled, and it was crazy. It was yeah. So I completely agree that sometimes it is just like a fun like, yeah, I just want to figure out where I'm from, but then sometimes it's like, no, you might find out some shit.
Not the father, bitch. You find out.
You're not the father.
I will say for me, real quick, before, outside of the actual finding of my biological family, I think for me, growing biracial, and I was adopted by a black father and a German mother. I think for me, that helped me identify with the 23andMe told me that, I had like 6% Native American and so much European. And I was like, damn, they got me. Like, I'm white. These people have been telling me my whole life I'm white, and they got me, right? But then when you look into that deeper, it's like the European is Spanish and Portuguese, right? And the Native American is Taino. So it was like really me coming to an understanding of my own identity as being a half Black, half Puerto Rican man. Like, I've heard of the term Afro Latinx, right? But like, that never really resonated with me until I was adults. And not only that, now I live in Bushwick. So it's like, now I really have this like visual representation of like people who look like me and people who, speak to me in very much in Spanish and expect me to like run it back. And I'm like, I haven't had that cultural experience yet, but I appreciate that, you think that I'm one of you, right? Like, you're willing to like allow me into this inner circle, even though I don't necessarily have that like feeling yet. I think it's very important for me along my journey of like finding my self-identity.
Yes. I just love, and honestly, like, we love to see it. We love to see people expanding on which part of the diaspora their identity comes from. And like, listen, Boricuas are also Black, right? Like, there's an entire population. And I think that like in terms of like finding the community within Afro-Latinidad, like, it exists, right? The best part is that you don't have to create it out of nowhere. It is a truth of that people, you know what I mean? Along with the truth of like understanding the traces of Taino and how deeply that runs versus how much of people's identity is actually just from the descendants of slaves that were brought to Puerto Rico after, a lot of the Tainos were dying out of disease and shit like that. So I think that it's an interesting little dichotomy, So this week I was on the app Clubhouse, that's Silicon Valley app, and somebody told me I wasn't Black because I was Afro-Latina, and it was a very interesting moment to be like, yeah, you know what? I'm not even mad at the sister who told me that, because she don't know why I am Black, and I didn't always know why I am Black growing up. So like, I took it as a moment of like, you know what? Instead of being tight, and trying to pull all the stats on you, and like, I always talk about like having one of these DNA tests as proof to be like, nah, you want to question me? Here's my identity, and maybe I will get one now that I don't think that they're just trying to steal my DNA, but like, understanding that it's important. Self-exploration is important because our self-discovery also lends to people's education. And the fact that I'm able to call myself Black came from an educational moment that happened out of choice. But if I never chose to take a certain class in college, I might be learning that I was Afro-Latina now in 2020 when everybody was talking about it, as opposed to 10 years ago when I started college. Wow, I'm old. Great. Anyway, but I think John.
Wow. All right, John, so why don't you tell us what your favorite brunch plate is?
My favorite brunch plate?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I think you can make anything breakfast with eggs, right? Like you can have a slice of pizza, you throw some eggs on it, now it's, you know, some sort of breakfast plate. I'm not saying do that.
Okay.
We need to talk about the whole recipe because we was talking about breakfast.
Yeah.
No, my favorite brunch plate is probably huevos rancheros. Like that's where it's at. It's real easy. Again, it's got eggs involved. Or anything. I think. Have you ever heard of P days? I feel like P days, which are like they're. The last time I had them was at a Georgian restaurant, not Georgia like my home state, but like Georgia like the country. And they're like these. They're these like kind of large croissants with bread, but then they have like eggs in the middle. It's like what's the UK word for it? What do you call when you have the egg in the middle of the bread?
I don't know what it's called, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like honestly, anything with eggs is fire, you know. And I'm a big bacon lover, and that's a big breakfast food.
Yeah, bacon with anything, honestly. Right. Even if I'm at like a place where it's like a mostly Mexican brunch type thing, or like something that doesn't necessarily use bacon a lot, I will always get a side of bacon.
Yo, and there are places that do gourmet ass bacon. Like they put like pecan. Like I was in New Orleans, and there's this place that did like this candy pecan bacon, and it was like thick cut, and it was incredible. Because at first I was like $6 for a side of bacon. I'm like $2 a shrimp. What they charging out here? And like, and then I had it, and then I was like, oh, okay, this is like some special bacon. It was still too expensive, but it was mad good. So
yeah, I'm from the Waffle House nation, so we used to get into like the gourmet hash browns. So like anything else, like any of the other like regular breakfast / brunch items, like
right,
very basic.
Absolutely.
So what is your go-to brunch drink when you're out to brunch?
Honestly, it really depends on a couple of factors. And, you know, having lived in DC and now living in New York, you know, brunch times are very different, right? So like in DC, it's like brunch starts very early. It's like a 10 to 11 a.m. start time. And then you're done by like 2, 3 o'clock. In New York, I feel like it's a bit late. Yeah, exactly. I feel like
that was not my DC brunch. That has not been my DC brunch experience. But maybe it's because I'm a New Yorker brunching with a New Yorker who lives in DC.
Right, exactly.
Because
start mad late. Start mad late.
Or like start early and then go till mad late. Just like keep going.
You started like 1 o'clock. Like the last time when I was living in DC and I came to New York brunch, we started at like 1 o'clock, and then we were there so long that the regular happy hour started, and I was like, they were like, that's not a that's a feature, not a bug. And I'm like, what you mean? Like you figuring this out because we done went way over the unlimited, you know, like we tripping. So like my drink of choice, it really depends. It depends if I'm hungover or I'm looking to turn up. Right. If I'm hungover and I'm like trying to get back right, then for me, it's a Bloody Maria. And usually they don't have them on the menu. They have the Bloody Marys. And I have to ask, like, yo, can you do a Bloody Maria?
What's Maria?
We did. Wait, Julissa, we did a Bloody Maria for the brunch bebida like 2 weeks ago.
That's the tequila, right?
It's tequila instead of vodka. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like the kick.
Yes.
Right. You know, I know a lot of people got mad feelings on tomatoes and the drinks or whatever, but it gets you right. It's the drink to get you there, right? But if it's me and I'm like coming into it and I'm like looking to go up, then there's a spot called Pig and Cow, I know, in East Village. And they have like 4 different mimosa drinks. And I think I have somebody saved on my phone as White Peach, because they have the drink called White Peach. It's a white, you know, it's a mimosa, but it's got the white peach joint in it. Oh my God, it's super
Ooh, that sounds good.
From Georgia, we love peaches. My stripper name would be Peaches. Like,
yes.
It's the whole vibe. Except I would be Black Peach.
My name on my phone's Black Peach, low key.
Oh, okay. I'm with it.
Come on, Black Peach.
All right, so John, tell us, what was it like going out to eat when you were growing up? Yeah, take that, honey, go.
So, it's delicious. For me, going out, what you mean like to eat? Going out for me in my town where I grew up, I spent 7 years of my life on a military base, and then even when my dad retired, we like stayed in the area. So for me, it was all chain restaurants, right? Like my mom's favorite place is Olive Garden because she loves the unlimited breadsticks. And my dad's favorite place is Outback Steakhouse because I'm not gonna lie, they got the fire.
I fuck with both of those. Listen, I fuck with both of those, and let me tell you, those are the fancier fast food places.
Right.
Like they like
Red Lobster is the one. Red Lobster is the best.
Nah, but I'm saying like if you go in the Olive Garden, you go to Outback, it's not like you going to McDonald's. Like there's levels to this shit, you know?
Right. Exactly. and for me, it was like the signal that when they wanted to go these places, they were in a good mood, right? Like this is celebratory. This is like, we're not going to the CC's Pizza or the McDonald's of the game. Like we're really doing it today, right? So like, not only do I have those, but for me, I had a plug. Speaking of Red Lobster, I had a plug, and I call him a plug because I would pull up, I would text him in the parking lot. He would come out with a wrapped white bag, and we would roll out. And it wasn't literal, but it was them cheddar biscuits.
Yeah.
The white napkin, I was like, the biscuit.
Yes, I was like, wait.
It was fully rolled up. We didn't say shit. It was like, roll the window down. You know, I had the manual back then, so I had to manually roll it down, give you your shit, you know, thank you. Roll it back up and peel out.
I love it. I love it.
That was like fine dining for me growing up, right? Like my parents weren't really cooks. It was like, you know, you get fed, be thankful. You know, you eat and be thankful. So it wasn't like, now I'm at the point where like, you know, I go to a Michelin star restaurant and I'm like, ooh.
Right. Now we know what Michelin star restaurants are because growing up,
Yeah.
No. Zagat, I remember when I was like, what's that? And people were like, yeah, the manual for the food. I was like, there's a manual?
Yeah, like these are tires. Michelin is a tire to me.
Right. And I love, I don't know that we've had yet on the podcast the perspective of having these places like Olive Garden and whatnot being the top notch. And I just want to add on the layer, not to like make the South sound different, but like in New York City, because there's such a mix of different cultures, like people who have mom and pop shops, there's a variety of restaurants where if you wanted some great Italian, Olive Garden is not your only option. If you wanted some great Mexican on the border, which I don't know if they have that in the South, but like on the border isn't your only option. Like you have authentic ties to the culture. So as a New Yorker, I feel like a lot of our answers became like, or a lot of people who answer this question are talking about McDonald's, Burger King, like, you know, that sort of thing, because we had so much access to good food, like direct ties to culture, that the fast food became the fascination because it was the opposite of what we were used to. But I think in saying that, like, as you were speaking, I was like, you know what, low key, when I turned 15, what I did for my birthday, I went out with two of my friends and my cousin, and we went to Applebee's. And that was a big deal. That we went to Applebee's, and I felt like I was going out to eat by myself with my friends, and Applebee's was a high level, and I could handle it. Like, it was a big fucking deal.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
There was some girl,
I remember. Listen, I've done that too.
One of my homegirls, Kai, I remember for her 15th birthday, we went to BBQ's and the movie theater on the AMC across the street from the BBQ's on 42nd Street. That was a very big deal. Like,
that's a big thing, yeah.
So,
it was, and that was like a thing in high school, like to go to dinner and then do a movie, or like even to just go. Yes.
Yeah. So,
I completely agree.
So you're bringing that up, John, has just brought such nostalgia, because I think in the same way for your family that was eating out, I think even as New Yorkers, like for us, that would be going out because we always had good food, right? And even though we knew that food wasn't necessarily better than what we would have at home, it was the experience. It was the fact that we felt cool and that we were like paying for bills on our own and ordering off our own menus and not having our micromanaging parents, you know, like over our shoulder.
Because I'm gonna get a refill too, and I'm gonna, and I'm gonna get a refill, and I'm gonna get a dessert.
Yes, and you would always get dessert, and sometimes you didn't even really. It wasn't even about hunger. It was just about authority and entitlement because I can.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like going on, you know, on one of my first dates and going to Applebee's and being able to be like, "Yo, 2 for $20, I got it." It's like true independence. It's like, you know, true independence in that sense of like, it don't matter how the God is God, right? But I got it. Yo, you can hand that bill to me happily, and I don't have to ask my parents.
Pretty good tip.
His mental allowance this month.
I love it. All right, so John, what is your favorite bochinche being gossip, bochinche topic to discuss over a meal?
You know, I think for me, I like to pride myself on being a great listener, and I love getting people to talk about themselves, especially because it allows me to avoid my own tea and shit. I think a fun one that I think I've had fun with lately is just asking people to talk about conspiracy theories that they may believe in. You know, like I feel like everybody has. These are like, it's like the like hashtag unpopular opinions thread, right? Where it's just like you ask somebody like, "Hey, what might you believe in that maybe nobody else rocks with?" And like having to ask that in like a like you can tell me this is a safe space, non-judgmental, right? And if somebody were to ask me that, right, like I think my favorite one, I know it's not true, is that Ted Cruz is a Zodiac killer. Like, yes, look it up. Look it up. There's a whole entire Wikipedia article about Ted Cruz. It's completely unfounded. It's rooted in no fact. Like there's absolutely no way that this could be true, right? But talking about Ted Cruz could be the Zodiac killer. It's just a fun, like to me, it's just like fun and light and like takes away from like, or offers, at least in a brunch setting, the distraction from like real conspiracy theories that are peddled by people that people actually believe that are like that are hurtfully false, right? Like that like have hurt and people believing that they're true. I like to ask that just on the flip side of like, you know, this isn't true, but like this is kind of funny to talk about.
Right. Yeah, no, I love shit like that. Like I said, my 23andMe theory, there's a lot of little theories that like I be entertaining. Like, listen, Skittles and I are friends with his Azalea Banks, and like
oh Lord. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, and you know what, like shame me if you want. There's so much about her that a lot of people don't know that lends itself to us understanding why we will still say, yeah, friendship. There's a lot of things. We hold her accountable, but she's also in a very specific place. Sidebar. Anyway, she's great with conspiracy theories. I mean, in the sense that like, she will sell it to you to the point that you walk out and you're like, yo, low key.
Man, you gotta think about it.
Bro, she ain't
think about it. Yeah.
So like you, if you love that type of stuff, you at a brunch with Azalea Banks, gold. You would you
yes. Yeah. Oh my God. If you can plug me for the Azalea Banks for yo, cash me in.
She really I mean, she had gone on a recent Twitter.
Black Girl Magic. Plug it, Black Girl Magic.
It's the McBride sisters, and they have other wines, but then they have this series that's called Black Girl Magic specifically. And I think it's wonderful, and so I'm gonna shout them out because they got me lit right now. But like Azalea has this wonderful theory around how actually the U.S. government is trying to control and kill its people through its food. That's all I'm gonna say about that. her biggest suggestion, cut the cheese and the meats. Cut the cheese and the meats is her biggest, fucking contributor. And maybe one day we'll go down that rabbit hole. But I just say that to say, yes, John, conspiracy theories, brunch, lit, conversation, totally the right vibe.
Right.
100%.
I feel like it's like I feel like it's the right setting of like, especially once you've had a few where you're like, inhibitions are a little bit looser and you're like, okay, like I'm willing to like hear some people out just by default, and just like other people feeling confident or feeling more, it's a liquid confidence. So like being in there, feeling like now I'm in a safe space, so I'm gonna let off some like ideas.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it creates that perfect, it's that perfect medium, right?
Yeah. 100%.
I'm too gullible for that shit.
Right? You walk out here.
I'm too gullible for that.
I'll give you one. I'll give you one that I remember from my childhood that just like still to this day blows my mind. So I feel like, I grew up in Georgia, and I know that, Sierra is like Southern royalty, right? But like there was this huge rumor, and I feel like this was like nationwide, that like Sierra was a man, right? It was like everybody has that, right? Like it's like a conspiracy theory that everybody like buys into with zero evidence. Like the evidence is she's tall. Like she got an Adam's apple. Like what? Like,
I will never forget that, because I remember when it was a thing, I remember feeling just very confused as to how it even happened. And I was like, what signs am I missing that are very clearly mannish, that I'm like, I don't think she's a man. And it's funny because there was a friend of ours, actually Lambie Skittles, who had mentioned this at one point. We were at my house, and sometimes when I'm at home with my friends, I just start watching old music videos just to be nostalgic. And we were watching a Sierra music video, and Lambie just goes, wow, this was made during the period where Sierra was doing everything she could to get her pussy shots in, so everybody knew she wasn't a man.
Yes. It was
It was
You love the way I ride.
and we were like,
It was that song.
shots in this video. This is because she wanted to show where the dick is not. There is no dick. I remember that. And it did carry. It was nationwide because I was in middle school. And I remember. A big thing. And I remember boys used to bully each other by being like, "Oh, you think Sierra is hot? Oh,
you're bad.
Oh, you like?" And it was this whole just transphobic as fuck,
Yeah.
But and at that time, I didn't realize it was transphobic as fuck. I just thought it was like boys being dumb and like calling women men when they didn't meet you. But yes, I'm here for all the conspiracy theories.